Assalamualaikum and a very good morning everyone. How's your day so far? I hope all of you are doing very well and have a productive day ahead. Before we start our presentation today, I would like to introduce my group members. First of all, I am Atira and this is Hayana and Farid. So, for today's presentation, we would like to introduce our topic, which is critical examination of syllabus Form 4 and Form 5 in chemistry. For content, firstly is introduction, and then we will go through to the coverage of the theme, number, and arrangement of the topics, learning objective and learning outcomes, scientific key concept, possible misconceptions, and lastly, conclusion. For introduction, we will take a look about education system between Malaysia and Papua New Guinea. Before we start, let's watch a video about Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea is a very easy country to love. It's beautiful, people are amazingly friendly. Being a volunteer here feels very rewarding. After teaching in the UK for 6 years, I was keen to do something different. VSO gave me the opportunity to have a purposeful role, still in education, and to get to see a new country. I'm here as part of a project called the Language Support Programme, which is all about improving literacy rates for lecturers and student teachers so that they will improve literacy in the classrooms in PNG. It's the building block, it's the starting point for everything. So if you get children confident and competent in literacy, then it helps them access all other areas of the curriculum. The project is having such a obviously positive effect. The lecturers are so much more confident in what they're teaching, and then the children are receiving higher quality teaching from better trained, better educated teachers.
So, what do you guys think about the video? It is very interesting, right? I hope the video can give you a brief about how the education in Papua New Guinea. We choose Papua New Guinea because their education system is very similar to Malaysia. And this is a little bit about the Papua New Guinea country. It is located in Oceania and bordered by the Pacific Ocean, Bismarck Sea, Solomon Sea, and West Indonesia. The large population in this country is illiterate, and the government also provide a free tuition, and the school attendance is not compulsory. Most of the instruction in school is English. Let we take a look about the education system in Malaysia. Education system in Malaysia consists of 5-level education, which is preschool education, primary education, secondary education, post-secondary education, and higher education. For preschool education, the kid at age 3 to 6 years old usually spend 4 years at this level. And for the primary school, the children at age 7 to 12 years old usually spend 6 years to finish this level and sit for primary school achievement test, which is UPSR, before they able to enter secondary education level. For the secondary education level, it divided into 2 levels, which is lower secondary and upper secondary. For the lower secondary, the Form 3 student will be evaluated with the Form 3 assessment, which is PT3. And at the upper secondary, Form 4 and Form 5 students that usually at age 16 to 17 years old will spend 2 years before they taking Malaysian Certificate Education Examination, which is SPM. For the vocational student, they will take the CJ Vocational Malaysia, which is FVM, and Diploma Vocational Malaysia, which is DVM, at age 16 to 17 years old before they pursue to the next level of education. For post-secondary education, it consists of Form 6 and matriculation. Form 6 students usually take Malaysia Higher School Certificate Examination, which is STPM, and matriculation usually spend about 1 to 2 years at this level. Usually, after the student finish their secondary education, they will pursue to the higher education, which is diploma or foundation. And for the post-secondary education, they will pursue to the higher education at the degree level. Next is education system in Papua New Guinea. The education system in Papua New Guinea consists of 3 levels of education, which is basic education, secondary education, and higher education and training. For the basic education, it consists of elementary school, lower primary, and upper primary. For elementary school, it divided into elementary prep, elementary 1, and elementary 2. The kids from age 6 to 8 years old usually spend 3 years at this stage. For lower primary, the student at age 9 to 12 years old will spend their grade 3 to grade 6 at this level before they enter the upper primary. At the upper primary, the student from 13 to 14 years old will spend their grade 7 to grade 8 and sit for basic education certificate to qualify them to enter the secondary education. At the secondary education, divided into 3 levels, which is lower secondary, upper secondary, and technical and vocational level. At the lower secondary, the 15 to 16 years old student will spend grade 9 to grade 10, and then for the upper secondary, which is the grade 11 and grade 12, will sit for high school certificate to qualify them to enter the higher education and training level. For the technical and vocational, they will sit for technical training certificate before they can enter the higher education and training level. STEM education in Malaysia and Papua New Guinea. In Malaysia, STEM education is implemented gradually in teaching and learning starting 2017, while in PNG, they will start to introduce the STEM education in 2021. Textbook. The textbooks are not the only learning resources, but it plays an important role in students' learning. Students are able to learn in different environments and through a different ways. The learning can take place beyond the textbook and the classroom, and it may take place through experience and learning material. Textbooks are not only teaching material for teachers, but also students' self-directed learning material for revision. To be a good textbook, there are several criteria that the textbook need to achieve. First, the structure is clear and transparent, which means students can easily find something in textbook. For example, the table of content, the objective of each topic, the arrangement of the topic, conclusion or summary of each chapter, activities and references. Second, the content is consistent with the learning objective. Each chapter clearly states the objective presented in national curriculum for the specific subject. Third, the content is a learning goals based, which means the content derived from the national curriculum specification. Textbook help to achieve the learning goals and allow students to achieve a set of skills and the subject itself. Fourth, textbook extend a coherent learning material in the national curriculum specification. Textbook cover a full and comprehensive subjects. The content relate to each other and link to additional resource and activities. Fifth, the inductive approach is used, which means the content should develop from general to the specific. Sixth, the content is correct. The content must correct according to actual knowledge and must be reviewed by two reviewers. One of them must have a PhD from that area. Lastly, the content is didactically adequate. The content must be tailored to the complexity and level of education and should allow individualization to tackle the student's learning style. So, let's take a look some features that have in Chemistry Form 4 textbook. This is the example of features that have in the Chemistry Form 4 textbook. As you can see, this book is equipped with the various special features that focus on STEM education and 21st century skill. And then, they have a lot of components at the end of the chapter and also activity that facilitate the self-directed learning for students. For the next slide, I will show to you the special features that have in this textbook, which is the interactive 3D animation using AR. Let's take a look. First, you need to scan the QR code to download the apps. After you have downloaded the apps, click the apps and then click the AR icon. Let's go to the page that have AR icon and scan the page.
Subatomic particles. Atoms have three subatomic particles: protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons and neutrons are located in the nucleus.
Let's move to the second topic in this presentation, which is coverage of the theme, number, and arrangement of the topics. The coverage theme for Form 4 Chemistry Malaysia consists of 4 themes, which is first is the importance of chemistry, second, fundamental of chemistry, third, interaction between matter, and the last one is industrial chemistry. For the theme 1, it consists of one topic, which is the introduction to chemistry. And for the theme 2, it consists of 4 topics, which is first, matter and the atomic structure, second, the mole concept, chemical formula and equation, third, the periodic table of elements, and the last one is chemical bond. For the third theme, in the chemistry Form 4, it consists of 2 topics, which is acid, base and salt, and the second one is rate of reaction. And for the last theme, it consists of 1 topic, which is manufacturer substances in industry. For the coverage theme for grade 11 in Papua New Guinea, it consists of 5 topics, which is first, the application of physical processes, second, the chemical and metallic bonding, third is the type of chemical reactions, fourth, energy and reaction rates, and the last one is metals and non-metals. In the topic 1, which is the application of physical processes, it contains 5 learning scope, which is diffusion, behavior gases, pure and impurity substances, separation mixture, and solubility. While in the second topic, it consists of 3 learning scope, which is electron shell of atom and ion, second, trend in periodic tables, and the last one is chemical and metallic bonding. For the third topic, it contains 2 learning scope, which is indicator of chemical changes and the type of reactions. For the fourth topic, it consists only 1 learning scope, which is factor affecting rates of reaction. And for the last topic, which is metals and non-metals, the learning scope contains 2, which is properties metal, metalloid, and non-metal. And the second one is uses of metal and metal alloy. In Malaysia, the topics in the Form 4 chemistry is enough to equip. The Team 2 have more topics compared to others, which means that the Team 2 have 4 topics, while others team have roughly 1 to 2 topics only. The topics were arranged from simple to complex. This shows that the textbook follow the inductive approaches. The topics are very suitable for Form 4 because we wanted to introduce the chemistry to Form 4 and the complex topic should not be introduced in the early learning of the chemistry. For the Team 1, students have a prior knowledge about the scientific investigation and the precaution laboratory in Form 1. For Team 2, students have prior knowledge about the theory of particle, kinetic theory of matter, structure of an atom, position of metal, non-metal and inert gas in periodic table in Form 1. For Team 3, they have prior knowledge about the acid and bases from Form 2. For Papua New Guinea, they have a unit or topics and do not have any team. The learning scope covered in the application of physical processes is more than others topic. The arrangement of the topic is from simple to complex. The students' prior knowledge of chemistry is built from the lower secondary science at Unit 10.3, which is the chemicals reaction. For the coverage team in Form 5 Malaysia, it have 4 teams, which is first, the chemical process, second, organic chemistry, third, heat, and the last one is technology in chemistry field. For the Team 1, it contains 1 topic, which is the balancing redox. The second team have 1 topic, which is the carbon compound. The third team have 1 topic, which is the thermochemistry. And the last team have 2 topics, which is polymer and consumer and industry in chemistry. For the grade 12 in Papua New Guinea, they have 5 units, which is Unit 1 is a masses, moles and concentration. Unit 2, which is acids, bases and salts. Unit 3, which is electrochemistry. Unit 4, carbon compound. And Unit 5, natural resources and chemical industry in Papua New Guinea. In Unit 1, the learning scope is about isotopes, relative formula, moles, empirical formula, and stoichiometry. For Units 2, the learning scope is the properties acid and bases, strong acid and bases, pH calculation, acid-base titration. For the Unit 3 learning scope, which is first, electrolysis, second, galvanic cell. For the Unit 4, it have 1 learning scope, which is the homologous series. And the last unit, it have 3 learning scope, which is crude oil, metallic ore, and production of ethanol, vegetable oil. For Malaysia, the topics in the Form 5 chemistry is enough to equip and suitable for Form 5 student. This is because the Form 5 students need to focus on revising the Form 4 topics, and it is very suitable and not pressure the students. Next, each team have equal amount of topic, which is only one topic for one team. The topic also arranged from simple to complex according to the complexity of the students. For Team 1, students have a prior knowledge from Form 3 topic, which is the extraction of metal using electrochemical series. For Team 3, students know about the concept reaction of endothermic and exothermic. For Papua New Guinea, the learning scope covered in masses, moles, and concentration, which is the Unit 1, have more compared to others topic. The arrangement of the topics is from simple to the complex. But for the boost syllabus in grade 11 and 12, the arrangement of the topics is from the complex to the simple. This is because the students learn about the masses, moles, and concentration in grade 12, not in the grade 11. The student should learn about the simple topic first related to chemistry in the early of learning. The prior knowledge of the chemistry is built from the lower secondary science at the unit 9.5, which is atom and periodic table. For the Malaysia chemistry textbook, in terms of depth, at the end of each chapter, the textbook have a brief summary about the chapter, a self-reflection to evaluate students' learning, a quick QR quiz, an exercise with hard questions, an achievement test which have a hard question to test students' understanding, and also the answer for the test. In terms of breadth, from the topics, it covered the whole aspect of basic chemistry that students need to know and understand about chemistry, from the introduction to chemistry to the application of the chemistry in daily life. For the Malaysia chemistry syllabus, it is balanced between depth and breadth, as the depth is on understanding. The students have the opportunity to practice and apply what they had learned in the variety ways. And the breadth is on the content coverage. Also important to make sure the students is prepared with various kind of topics. For the Papua New Guinea chemistry syllabus, it is more to the breadth compared to the depth because it do cover all the topics, but in terms of activities related to students' understanding, it is insufficient and not engaged with the 21st century learning skill. In terms level of difficulty, the level of difficulty of the topic is based on students' cognitive level according to the level of education. The higher the level of education, the higher the level of students' cognitive domain. For Malaysia chemistry syllabus, the level of difficulty is parallel with the students' cognitive level, and it starts from general topic to the complex topic. But some of the topic could be difficult for the student to understand and to relate with their surrounding. For example, the balancing equation of redox and salt. For Papua New Guinea chemistry syllabus, the level of difficulty in their syllabus is decreased because the arrangement of the topics is from complex too simple, and it opposes with the student's cognitive level at that age. For example, the student learn about moles at grade 12 instead of grade 11. In terms of multiple perspective, for the Malaysia chemistry textbook, it is more to the student-centered and teacher as the guidance and facilitator, and it more on questions, activities, and tests compared to explanation. It can facilitate students' self-learning skill, and it's more on 21st century skill activities and involve project-based learning through STEM approach is embedded in these books. This textbook is very benefit to the students who are kinesthetic, visual, and auditory learner, and it gives less benefit to the student who do not have internet access and electronic devices, because in this book it integrated the technology in it, and then in every component it need to be accessed via electronic devices such as the test, the answer for test, the questions, and also the activities.
Hello, I am the next presenter, Hayana. So let's move to learning objectives and learning outcomes. First of all, we go to the definition of learning objective. Learning objective is a statement of what the learner will know, understand, or be able to do as a result of engaging in a learning activity. Next, we go to the importance of learning objective to teachers. First, it helps teachers to select and organize course content. This is because as the teacher, when we write and review the learning objective in a course, we can identify the kinds of materials and topics that will be suitable to the learning outcomes most efficiently. With well-defined, actionable learning objective comes the ability to quickly filter out tasks or activities that do not suit the course. Next, it helps teachers to determine assessment creation. Well-written learning objective will help teachers to build focused assessment aligned with the critical learning components of our course. In addition, it also helps teachers and students to have comprehend simple conversations and stories on everyday topics before teaching and learning sections start. It helps teachers to know the previous knowledge that students have. And also, teacher can give example regarding to the topics briefly. There are four main components of learning objective. First is audience. Who is the learner? Second, behavior. What or observable behavior? For example, list, explain, and identify. Third is condition of performance. Condition, the task must be performed. The words is by the end of the, and lastly is standard. Standard, the task must be performed. The words is how many or how fast. A good learning objective must have a SMART characteristic. What actually a SMART characteristic? It stands for specific, measurable, action-oriented, reasonable, and time-bound. For specific, it means that the learning objective describes the knowledge, attitudes, or skills that a learner should be able to demonstrate following exposure to a teaching strategy or learning activity. Measurable means that the achievement of learning objective can be measured by test items, observations, problem-solving exercises, or other evaluation methods during or after the season. Next, action-oriented means that the objective includes an action verb that demonstrates change of knowledge, attitudes, or behavior. The usually keyword used are elaborate, calculate, and so on. Reasonable means that the objective reflects realistic expectation of knowledge, attitude, or behavior changes given the conditions for instruction. For example, time and size of group or scope of training. Last but not least, time bound. Time bound means that the objective specifies a time frame in which learners are expected to achieve the learning objective. Usually, we use by the end of the season and so on. So far, are you guys still okay? I hope you guys still with me because now we want to proceed to learning outcomes. First of all, what is learning outcomes? Okay, actually, it is a statement that describes the knowledge or skills students should acquire by the end of a particular assignment, class, course, or program. Okay, now we want to look at the importance of learning outcome for teachers. Firstly, it helps teachers to determine methods of assessment, and it allows teachers to set the standards by which the success of the course will be evaluated. Okay, do you guys have any idea what are the differences between learning outcome and learning objective? Okay, now let's look at the differences. Learning objectives are usually viewed from the instructor's perspective, while learning outcomes are seen more from the learner's perspective. Of course, the two are closely related because a trainer's objective will ultimately be translated into the learner's outcomes as long as the course successfully serves its purpose. Okay, now I want to add something that are the benefits of learning outcome for learners. Initially, they give learners a better understanding of the specific knowledge and skills that they will acquire during the course. Next, it also helps focusing on outcomes from the beginning, places greater emphasis on the relevant practical knowledge and skills to begin. This makes learning more effective because learners have a clear sense of what their desired outcomes looks like. And lastly, clear learning outcomes also help learners see why content and assessment are relevant to them. As I have explained about learning objective and learning outcomes earlier, so now we want to figure out what are learning objective and learning outcomes of chemistry subjects between Malaysia and Papua New Guinea country. So, are you guys ready? Let's start. So, we can see that this is about chemistry form 4 subject. On chapter 3 about the mole, concept, chemical formula and equation from our country, Malaysia. For learning objective, there are four that are understanding of relative atomic mass and relative molecular mass, knowing the mole concept, understanding the chemical formula, and understanding the chemical equation. For learning outcomes, at the end of the lesson, pupils are able to conceptualize relative atomic mass and relative molecular mass based on the carbon-12 scale, solve numerical problems involving the number of particles, number of moles, mass of the substances, and volume of gases. Solve numerical problems involving empirical formula and molecular formula. And lastly, interpret chemical equations quantitatively and qualitatively. So, do you guys know how to write the learning objective? Actually, learning objective we can find under the SKP, while learning outcomes, we can find it on the textbook itself. Based on these topics, you guys can find it on the page 44, 49, 59, and 69. It was written in the box with standard pembelajaran as the syllabus in Bahasa Melayu. So, do you guys still remember what are the characteristics of learning objective to be good? Do you guys think that our learning objective that stated here are good enough to be good learning objective and effective? So, we will find out together on this next slide. So let's look at the Papua New Guinea country for chemistry subject of grade 12, unit 12.1 about masses, moles and concentration. For learning objective, they are understanding the relative formula mass and percentage composition, knowing the mole concept, understanding the empirical, molecular formula and stoichiometry. And learning outcomes, at the end of the lesson, pupils are able to calculate the relative formula mass and relative molecular mass of a given compound. Calculate the number of moles in a given mass and the mass from a number of moles. And lastly, write balanced chemical equations and find stoichiometric ratios of the reactants and products. So now we proceed for Form 5 Chemistry about Chapter 2 Carbon Compound for our country Malaysia. For learning objective, it knowing the types of carbon compound, understanding the homological series, understanding chemical properties and exchange of compounds between homological series, and understanding the isomerism and IUPAC system. For learning outcomes, at the end of the lesson, pupils are able to explain the sources of hydrocarbon, construct the molecular formula and structural formula and naming the homologous series, elaborate chemical properties for each homologous series through activity, and explain the uses of each homologous series in daily life with a related example. So let's look at the Papua New Guinea country of chemistry subject for grade 12, unit 12.4 carbon compound. For learning objective, they are understanding the homologous series and understanding the hydrocarbons. While learning outcomes, at the end of the lesson, pupils are able to understand the general pattern of the structure of carbon compounds and write formula, draw structures, and name according to IUPAC system. Based on the comparison between these two countries, we can say that both of these countries do not able to achieve good learning objective as both of them do not follow SMART characteristics. So I have explained what are SMART characteristics before, and for the next slide, we will figure out why both of them are bad learning objective, and I also have come out with the new good learning objective on the next slide. To be a good learning objective, it must follow SMART characteristic. But based on what we can see, Malaysia and Papua New Guinea are bad learning objective. For example, the learning objective is understanding of relative atomic mass and relative molecular mass. It are not clearly defined, not measurable, and not reasonable, and also do not have time bound. So we must change this learning objective and come out with a new one. So I have stated in it on the next slide. So I have come out with a new learning objective that follow SMART characteristic that are specific, measurable, action-oriented, reasonable, and time-bound. Before this, the learning objective is understanding of relative atomic mass and relative molecular mass only. But now, the learning objective is following this lecture, the students will calculate correctly the relative atomic mass and relative molecular mass. For following this lecture, it is time bound. Okay, you also can use at the end of the lesson as the option. Okay, for calculate, it is action oriented. Another example of action oriented, as I have stated before, elaborate, explain, list, and so on. For correctly the relative atomic mass and relative molecular mass, it are specific, measurable, and reasonable. Okay, now we go to next example of PET learning objective. The learning objective is knowing the types of carbon compound. So knowing not clearly defined, it should have time bound at the front of the sentence. For example, at the end of the lesson. Okay, for the types not specific, it should have how many types you want the student to know of carbon compound are not measurable and not reasonable, and also do not have time bound. The previous learning objective is knowing the types of carbon compound. So I have come up with a new one, that is, following this lecture, the students will elaborate 3 types of carbon compound. So you can see that it follows smart characteristic, it has time bound for following this lecture, action oriented for elaborate, and 3 types of carbon compound are specific, measurable, and reasonable. Or you also can write like the students will elaborate 3 types of carbon compound at the end of the lecture. We can conclude that learning objective of Malaysia and Papua New Guinea are not time bound, so it will difficult to determine if it is reasonable or not. So automatically, if the learning objective are not time bound, it also will become not reasonable. For action oriented, it do not have action verb because understand is not action verb. We should replace with list, calculate, elaborate, and so on. And because of that, it will become difficult to measure and become not measurable. Based on previous research regarding Malaysia's learning objective, it shows that all chapters have stated the learning objective at the beginning of every chapter. So this characteristic should be remain. However, improvement can still be done in terms of providing clear and detailed learning objective to enable the students to have better understanding about the topics and also to prepare them in achieving all the objectives. It also helps students to have roughly the idea before going through the entire topics. So I have prepared some exercise for your better understanding. So make sure you guys post it on Google Classroom by tomorrow. So for this slide, you must come out with a good learning objective based on the bad learning objective, which is understanding chemical properties and exchange of compounds between homologous series. For this 2 slides. You must drag the box below to the correct answer based on what I have done on previous slide. So 3 slides, you must post it on the Google Classroom. Okay guys, good luck and thank you.
Hello everyone, with me Farid. Now we move to the next part of the presentation. So now I'm going to present to you about the scientific key concept. I think maybe some of you might already have an idea about this topic, but some are not. For those who have an idea about this, you can start asking yourself about it and try to reflect it back with what I'm present to you, okay?
So the conclusion is, from the critical examination for the syllabus, it helps teacher to make impactful learning objectives and learning outcomes, and it also helps students to have overview and idea before going to depths of the topics.
First of all, of course, its definition, so that we have a clear understanding about what we are talking about. Scientific key concept is defined as an idea and terms that are central to the main point or big idea of the topics. It means that something in which was an important element in the topic. By looking at it, it will give you a picture, a one big picture regarding to the topic. Basically, it will retain in your mind for the long term, even after you had left the school for a long time ago. Let's take a look at the key concept in the chemistry textbook for Form 4. I randomly pick the topic. There are 3 chosen topics. Let's have a look and discuss about it. First topic is in the chapter 2, where the title is Matter and the Atomic Structure. The scientific key concept in this topic is about the conversion between states of matter. Matter is the big idea for this topic. It's telling you that there are mainly consists of 3 types of matter, which are solid, liquid and gas. In this key concept, you will know that the arrangement, kinetic energy and attraction forces of the particle in each matter is different. Also, you will know there are various names of process that involve in conversion state between it. The conversion happen due to presence of heat energy, either is it absorbed or released. Based on the key concept in the chapter 2, how it can develop the cognitive skill of all levels, especially the hard skill. Students can develop critical thinking in which they can evaluate something logically and rationally. For example, students can understand how the process of production and the cycle of rainfall works, and how the key concept in chapter 2 can foster the positive value and attitude. Actually, this topic can instill an interest toward the environment in which students will like to ask their teacher, friend or parents make their own reading and conduct their own study. At the same time, this topic can also provide positive value from the points of view that science is one way of understanding the nature. For example, students will communicate in the correct scientific language. What kinds of the activity that is essential to achieving the learning target? The activity that can be undertaken by individually or in group in order to achieve their high level of student mastery and understanding by carrying out a project about the conversions of one state to another through the home appliance. For the second scientific key concept is followed with chapter 3, and its title is about the mole concept, chemical formula and equation. In this key concept, you will learn about the difference between element and compound. There are a big difference between them actually. Don't get confusing with element because it can be called atom if the element is metal and inert gases. It can be molecule if the element is oxygen gas. Then for the compound, you just need to know it will be called as compound if there are two or more elements chemically joined together. For example, H2O, where there are two atoms of hydrogen combined with one atom oxygen. Other example is aluminium oxide, where there are two atoms of aluminium combined with three atoms of oxygen.
Based on the key concept in chapter 3, how the appropriateness of level of difficulty. The scope of learning for this topic is aligned to the student level where students are exposed to the element and compounds around them and are also easy to find out. An example is for sodium chloride, which is the salt that is used in daily cooking. How this key concept can fostering positive value and attitude among the student. Through this topic, students will be more grateful for the natural occurrence of God's creation, and it can develop a sense of inquisitive about the element and compound that is used in the everyday life. For example, they wonder how the toothpaste is produced, in which the ingredients can clean up the teeth and protect the teeth by making the enamel harder. What kind of learning activity that is essential to achieving the learning target? In my opinion, for example, of the activity that teacher can do to ensure that students understand better are by providing animated storytelling on the elements and compounds surrounding our life through the animation video. It's more interactive. Move to the third one is chapter 4, the periodic table of element. This topic is very well known among the student. Periodic table is a systematic classification of elements that are arranged in ascending order of proton number from left to right and from top to bottom. They are consist of 18 groups in total. Must to remember that the number of valence electrons located at outer shell will determine the positions of the group of an element. That's all about the scientific key concept. On the chapter 4, how it can develop the cognitive skill, especially in hot skill. For me, this topic, students can think critically because the content of the periodic table are made up of various elements and are grouped according to their criteria. Thus, the student have to manage their understanding well about all of the elements in the periodic table. For example, group 1 is an alkaline metal, group 2 is the alkaline earth metal, and then group 3 to 12 is a transition metal. Each of this group has its own unique properties. How this key concept can foster the positive value. This topic can instill an interest toward the environment in which students will like to ask their teacher, friends or parents, and they can make their own reading and conduct their own study. At the same time, this topic can also provide positive value from the points of view that science is one of understanding the nature. For example, students will communicate in the correct scientific language. What kinds of the activity that is essential to achieving the learning target? For me, the activity that can be carried out for the purpose of increasing understanding and memory in remembering the elements contained in the periodic table are to make it into an attractive acronym for students to make it easier to remember. Now, move to the scientific key concept for Form 5. There are 3 topics that are randomly chosen. First scientific concept to be discussed is from chapter 2, which is a carbon compound. I want to ask you why we call carbon compound. Actually, is it because it contains carbon as one of its constituent element, and it can be categorized into two parts, which is organic and inorganic compound. If you can see, there are a lot of homologous series. This homologous series is very important in determining the group of molecule. By this homologous series, we can identify the molecule whether it is alkene, carboxylic acid, alcohol, or ester. How the appropriateness levels of difficulty for this key concept. Learning for this topic is actually aligned to the student level in which the topic is enhanced student thinking level. The student can improve their understanding by classifying a compound based on a series of homologous series. How it can develop the cognitive skill among the student in this key concept. Actually, it can enable students to have a great knowledge and understand the compound according to their homologous series. For this, student needs to master the formula of compound well so that they know how to manage it. And for the activity, suggested activity that is essential to achieving the learning target, my recommendation is the activity that can be implemented to ensure effective learning is to provide a 3D model of the compound. Second scientific concept is from chapter 3, which is oxidation and reduction. Must be remembered that definitions of it, because it's always appear in the exam. It is defined as the chemical reaction in which oxidation and reduction process occur simultaneously. Note also the reduction involves the gaining the electron, thus makes the oxidation number decrease. And for the oxidation reaction, it involves the loss of electron, thus the oxidation number increasing. How this key concept can facilitate student integrate, practice or apply the new knowledge. By studying this topic, students will be able to research and understand the corrosion process in beach area and the area that is far from the beach. So the student can apply new knowledge where they will think the rates of corrosion at the beach area is higher because of the sea level or seawater factor, in which the seawater basically it contains more salt. How this key concept can promote the higher order thinking. Actually, it can enhance the level thinking among the student because of it require high imagination and understanding, because the process of it is difficult to figure out. An example would be how the corrosion process of iron is occurred and what kinds of the activity that is essential to achieving the learning target. The activity that can be carried out for this topic is to conduct experiment on iron corrodes by using various factors. For example, the use of water, salt and acid in comparing the durations of those factors give effect to the corrosion process. Last one is chapter 5, chemical for users. The key concept is about the comparison between soap and detergent. It seems similar, but chemically they are not. They play their own specific role and properties. You need to know a salt is produced by the oxidation between fatty acid and alkalines. The preparations in making the soap is called saponification process. Take a note and remember the names of this process because it seems popular in exam. On that key concept, how the appropriateness level of difficulty. Learning for this topic actually is aligned to the student level in which the topic is enhanced student thinking level. They can improve their understanding, which then they can differentiate between soap and detergent and also how it works and how it can improve the thinking skill. This key concept can develop critical thinking in which they can evaluate something logically and rationally. For example, students can understand how the soap and detergent works in cleaning the dirt on clothes. What kinds of the activity that is essential to achieving the learning target? By referring to this key concept, my recommendations of activity that can be implemented is by having a field trip to the factory or just providing them a video on how the soap and detergent is made up. Now it's time for asking you some questions about your thought regarding to scientific key concept. My first question is, do you think the key concept is necessary and important? You ask yourself and telling me the answer when we discuss about this in WhatsApp group later. My second question is, does it help students to learn better? Do you agree or disagree? If agreed, give your reason in our discussion later. It's time to move on from scientific key concept since I've already done explain about it. Hope it made sense to you guys. Before we jump to the next part, I would like you to read this situation. Read carefully and guess what's the points of this situation, because that point will reflect to my topics of presentation in the next slide. Take your time to read, it's okay. So, I thought you are ready to share what is the points of the situation between girls and boys in this slide. Yes, correct. The point is about the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding equals to misconceptions. You got the point, and a big clap for you guys. So now we move to another part, which is part 4. It is about the possible misconceptions that usually happen among the students. Actually, I want to talk about the misconceptions. Have you ever heard this term? I'm sure that you have already heard about this. For your information, students have misconceptions in all subjects, but I just want to highlight for chemistry subject only. Misconception is actually a view that is incorrect due to faulty thinking or understanding. In easy word, it is a fake news. How this can happen? It can be happen due to many students do not construct appropriate understanding about the concept from the very beginning of their studies. The fact is, students' pre-existing belief influence how students learn new scientific knowledge and play an essential role in subsequent learning. Make sense about this? Alright, let's move to the next slide. Let's have a break for a while from listening to my presentations. Let's do some quiz that I've prepared for you. Actually, this quiz is made from quizzes, and it used to be one of the way that I can recognize if there are misconceptions or not among you guys in answering the questions. Here is the list of possible misconceptions that usually happen across the topic in Form 4 and Form 5. First misconception is when it comes to atom and molecule in chapter 3 in Form 4. The student thought that atom and molecule are the same just because of both is called an element. In fact, it's not same. The reason is because elements like metal and inert gases are called atoms, while elements such as oxygen gas are called molecules. For example, for atom is magnesium, while example for molecule is oxygen gas or hydrogen gas. Second misconception is about the chemical bond in chapter 4. The questions ask, if sodium chloride is ionic, does solid sodium chloride can conduct electricity? Highlighted keyword here is solid, the states of NaCl itself. Students often misunderstood that the solid sodium chloride can conduct the electricity due to electron can move between the ions. But then, the actual concept is the ionic compound can conduct the electricity is when it dissolves in water, because in water it will dissociate to produce the free moving ion. That is why the electricity can be conducted, while in solid state there are no free moving ions. Possible misconception in topic 3, which is oxidation and reduction, form 5. The area where misconception was happen in this topic is in relation to the signs of anode and cathode. The wrong concept is students thought the anode was negatively charged, believe cation would move toward it, while students who thought the cathode was positively charged believe anions would move toward it. But it's actually the anode will attract the cation, while the cathode will attract the anions. Last but not least, therefore, it is very important to identify the misconception among the student by doing some survey, and this is expected that the misconception will eventually be eliminated, corrected, and replaced with ones that correct.